Hi, and welcome to another episode of Cooking with Cleavage. I'm sorry it took me some time to do this one, but I had some things going on, so I appreciate y'all for coming back. Today I'm making a lentil stew. I got this recipe from my uncle's ex-wife. So there are different ways you can make it. You can actually make it completely meatless and vegetarian, and it would also be vegan for those of people who want to do something without meat. I tend to like the meat now. So what I'm gonna do first, what I did first was I soaked the lentils last night, right? And then I drained them and I started cooking them again. So that's what they look like. It's just lentils in there. Sorry for the steam. Can you see it? Just the lentils. And then in the pot next to it, I have rib tips cooking. What you want to do when you get rib tips, it's a really good tender piece of pork, but you want to boil it in water before you put it in your beans or any kind of stock pot of anything, because it's really salty. So you kind of want to boil it down until it'll fall off. As you can see here, this is a piece, but it's still not falling off when I grab it. And you'll cook it until it really just falls off, and then you can pick just the meat out of there. And then you don't have to worry about any of your diners breaking a tooth on your on your food. So I turned, what I'm gonna do is add these carrots, because it takes about 6 to 8, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, that's perfect. 7 carrots. And the reason why I'm putting these in first is because it takes longer for the carrots to break down. I put them in whole like this and let them kind of fall apart. And then you'll see later I'll mash them so that they're all mashed. And you want to add a quarter of a cup of olive oil, which I have sitting here. And you just stew all that together. Okay, and I have this this pot on here. What I'm gonna do is just fry these pieces of sausage. My mom, when she made beans when I was younger, always cooked the sausage on the side. She'd put the sausage slice them like this, but put them in the oven, and that way the grease from the sausage wouldn't be in the food. But what fun is that, right? If you're gonna have meat, you might as well use it for seasoning while you're cooking. And I think that's important, because every little layer of seasoning will help season your stew. And you just want to cook them on each side just to get a little browning. And you just turn them when they get done on one side, and then you just cook both sides. Okay, so while these sausages are finishing up cooking, I'm gonna make some screwdrivers with fresh orange juice. Okay, I already squeezed the oranges. I squeezed 2 oranges here. I have some big cubes of ice in here. I'm not gonna put ice in here yet because I can use the ice that I'm mixing with. And it's always good to shake with ice, I think. It helps to break everything up and mix well together. So I'm gonna do 8 counts, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And I'm gonna add the orange juice. And then you wanna mix it. And the reason why you always wanna mix fresh juice, especially when it's fresh juice with liquor, is because the fresh juice will bind with the liquor. You won't be able to taste it as much. Some people want to taste their liquor. You could float a little bit on top if that's your thing. But it will, as a bartender, it always helped me, sell more drinks, because people would definitely drink them more quickly. They enjoyed them more. So then I just strain it so that each glass has the same amount. And then a lot of people ask when they're finished with a drink, they'll ask for the ice that they were using, because the ice is all like covered with that drink, right? Some people just throw the dirty ice away, but I don't think that's necessary. Let's see. See, I'm using these big ice cubes, so see if I can get another one out of here. Ooh, okay. For the one, here you go, cheers. That's delicious. Okay, and then I think these sausages are ready to go into the pot. They're each, you know, it's kind of, looks like they're browned on both sides. And you just put it straight in there. This is on medium low. You can turn it a little bit up to closer to medium, because you're getting ready to put all the seasoning in it. So I'm going to turn it up to get a nice boil going. A nice simmering boil. Try not to scrape the pan, because a friend of mine was really like, that was her one criticism of my first video, the chocolate pudding, is that there were too many scraping noises. And you know, that's like nail scraping on a chalkboard for some people. So we have that in there. We can stir that all in. Get it all stirred in there. That looks good. And then what I do, the next thing is a whole head of garlic and a whole pack of green onions. My mom always used just a blender. You blend it all up, right? And pour it straight in there. But what I do is after the sausage cooks, I let this all cook in the pan and cook down a little bit. Makes it really easy to do it in a blender, actually. Then it gets up all that nice sausage, the brown stuff. Some chefs call it the brown stuff. And you could also chop it. I mean, I just do this, it makes it easy. All you have to do is peel the garlic. And some people might want to use a food processor. I don't think that's necessary. I don't think it's necessary to use a food processor. And now the blender is really easy to clean. But then at this point, what I do is you want to do your seasoning while you're cooking your vegetables too. So what I would do is, this is all my fresh herbs. Anything that's in Italian seasoning. So I have, let's see, I have parsley, oregano, thyme, sage. What else am I forgetting? Oregano, sage, basil. And then you can also use, I mean, I think the fresh herbs like this makes such a difference in the stew, whether or not you're making it with meat or you're making it without meat. But I tell you what, if you are wanting it without meat and you wanted it just to be vegan, the fresh herbs are a necessity because they are so flavorful and it will make such a difference in your stew. But you can also use just a little bit of dried herbs. The bay leaf. I put a little bit of bay leaf in the lentils when I was soaking them. And I put a little bit of the Italian seasoning. When you use dried herbs like this, make sure you pinch it between your fingers. Some people pinch it between their hands. But it just livens the dried herbs up. Okay? And then you want to use a little bit of salt. Just a little, because this is going to add a lot of salt. The rib tips. But just a little bit of salt, just to give the vegetables some seasoning. And I use Tony Chachere's. If you don't know if you've heard me talk about New Orleans before, but that's where I am and that's where I'm from. So I prefer the Tony Chachere's. You can use whatever kind of seasoning you like. And you get it kind of nice and cooked down. And let's see how the carrots are doing. The carrots are still pretty hard. So I did turn up the the heat. I'm going to turn it up a little bit. So when the seasoning gets there, it'd be nice if it has a boil. So I'm going to put the top on it so it can get nice and hot. And this is getting really close. But the thing I like about blending the green onions with the garlic is that it gives it this nice green color. Kind of adds to the soupiness of the lentil stew. And then we'll check on the rib tips to see how they're doing. You might have to add, they're starting to fall apart. I feel like they're starting to. But you might have to add a little more water to here because when it all boils out, you need water, otherwise it'll all burn. Okay, so this is getting a nice little simmering boil, as you see. And then you just scoop all this up. You put it in here. See how that green, it just kind of adds to the stew. You can turn this off. I'm just gonna try to get as much of this up as possible. And like I said, my mom always just put it straight in the stew. I like to get the flavor of the sausage in there, so that's why I do it like this and just cook it in the pan. You can also just peel your garlic and smash it and throw them in the stew. I've seen people do that. And you can chop up your green onions if you want, but green onions are better if you're gonna saute them. And you probably need a little bit of oil in your green onions. So, okay, we're gonna add some more water to this. We're gonna keep boiling and then we'll be back. So the next thing I'm gonna do is make the pasta because I serve this over pasta. And normally I get capellini or vermicelli or whatever that you buy in the store, the long, thin one, angel hair even, if you're good at making al dente, because I think al dente makes all the difference. And then for angel hair, it's harder because you have to wait for the water to boil, put the angel hair in, and almost take it out immediately in order to have that al dente. But I recently bought this fresh fettuccine. I was looking for fresh fettuccine that you'd usually find in a cooler. It's cold and it's freshly cut and it doesn't take that long to boil and it has a chewy texture to it. But I found this, which is fresh cut, but it's still dried. It actually came out pretty good last time. So I had this. I forgot to get the normal pasta I make with this. So I'm going to actually use this to cook it with today. So you get the water boiling. And just remember, I was told this by an Italian person I used to work with. When you're cooking pasta, pasta is not made with any seasoning at all. Of course, that's not true with this one because it's made with garlic and parsley in the actual fettuccine. But it isn't made with any salt. So you want to salt the water to the taste of seawater, believe it or not. Okay? And you want to put that in there. And when you add pasta, no matter if it's this fresh one or it's the other one, you want to have it on high and you want to keep it on high. But once the water boils and you add the pasta to it, you want to take the top off. Cook it without the top on high so that it will boil the whole time. This pasta actually says cook for 3 minutes and then taste. So we're going to wait for 3 minutes. It says 8:25 on that clock right there. We're going to wait until it says 8:25 and we're going to cook it. But what will happen is after you put the pasta or anything else that's not as hot as the boiling water, as you know when you cook, it stops the boil. But it'll start back up again because we have it on high. And that's the whole reason to keep it on high. And while that's cooking, this is actually getting to a nice falling off the bone like I've been talking about. So you can actually see it's getting ready to come off the bone. That's good. That's getting ready to. Oh, it's almost like really tender where I could just stick the what is this called? It's the tongs through it, right? But I'm gonna let that sit a little bit longer because what I'm interested in are these carrots. Okay. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take these carrots out of the stew. Sorry, y'all, I lost my mic for a second there. But what I'm gonna do is, I noticed that these carrots are getting soft enough to me. You see that? Soft enough for me to mush. So you just take them out. I usually just stand here at the stove and I mush them, but I'm gonna take them out since my kitchen's not perfect for filming, and I'm working on that. I'm working on getting better appliances, and I'm working on getting a better showcase where I can actually cook and you can see my friendly face. Okay, wait. And I take all the pieces of carrot that I can find. Take it out. See, this is just falling apart, that one. It's almost like you don't even need to take it out. It'll fall apart on its own. See, and you'll see now that I have that was a nice rolling, simmering boil, but once I had the top off for a little while, it really stopped that. I'm gonna put this cover back on. All right, and then I'm gonna try these this pasta here. I don't usually use the same. I usually use a little fork, but what's the difference? It's all the same food, right? And then it's been about 3 minutes. I'm gonna try this. And what you wanna try, you see how it's already a little loose. It's a little loose right there, but it still has, I can tell just by not even eating it yet. It's got a hard interior. So you just wanna cook it a little bit more. Like I said, keep it on high. But the flavor's really good. I put enough salt in the water, so that's a good, you don't want to cook it that much longer. So what I'm going to do is maybe take the rib tips out, or the ones that are tender enough to be pulled off the bone, or the cartilage. I think that looks soft enough. That probably is soft enough. Maybe all of them are. Let's see if we can work with that. Get all those little pieces. See, that's the hard thing that somebody could bite into if you leave it in there. And I don't dump this water because it's what I use if I need more salt in my dish after I'm finished putting everything in so that I can taste it. So I'll turn that off. Oh, that wasn't good. Okay, I think that's the perfect amount of al dente. And you'll know as you get used to it. So what I'll do is I'll just strain it. Oh, I didn't add it. I didn't save any of the water. Let me see if I can save it real quick. Some of the water. See how it's dripping in there? Usually what I do is I'll put a cup, like a quarter, an eighth of a cup or something like that, and add some of the water from the pasta. But since I didn't do that, you see I strained some of it, and then you can add it back to that. Okay, and then the next thing I'm gonna do, as that cools a little bit, is I'm gonna get a fork to break up these carrots. So what I like to do is use a spoon and a fork, and you just mash. But you know what I do have? That'll make this easier since I did put it in a bowl. So I just remembered that. I have a masher. And maybe this will work. Yeah, see, the carrots are soft enough. You just mash them all. And see, that's pretty mashed. And the thing is, if you get it mashed like this, it'll fall apart in that lentil stew. It'll be so good. Mash it all together. This is much easier than the way I normally do it. Like I said, I usually just pick it out of the stew and I break it apart on a spoon. I'm over the hot stove, you know what I mean? So this is actually nice. This is actually much better. But now that that is all put out, and then we can pull apart this meat, see what we can pull in there. So that is just a bunch of fat. You don't really need that in there. You can get that taste from the fat in. So what I'm going to do is just add it to here, because all this is going back in. No, I can add it to here. Yeah, all this is going back in, so I can just add it. See, that's just fat. What you want to do when you break it apart is make sure there aren't any hard pieces, like the one that I showed you a little while ago, or like this cartilage right here, that hard cartilage that's right there, because then somebody can bite into that. And it doesn't have to be all the way off this, the cartilage, or all the way off the bone, because it's going to finish. It's going to fall apart more as it gets in that stew. You just kind of want to get it away from this, if that makes sense. I don't mind it. Like if I'm just cooking for myself, I'll put it all in and pick it apart while I'm eating. But I know a lot of people prefer not. You know, I was made fun of for not picking my chicken off the bone with gumbo before, and it's such a sacrilege. But I don't know. I think if you keep it all in there, it adds more flavor. Of course, you can also take all the bones out and then make a nice stock out of it. So there's always that. But you see, you just get this nice big chunk, and it'll fall apart in there. You could have let this sit a little bit longer, but I'm pushing it a little bit. Wow, look at that, huh? That big piece of fat in it. But boy, is that a good piece of meat right there. See, and it just breaks apart. You don't even need a knife to break it apart. You just need a fork and tongs, obviously, something to hold it. There's really nothing in there. Oh, my dog is staying close underneath me to see if I am gonna drop some of this. I can tell you, he is smelling this. If only y'all could smell how good this smells with that garlic and the green onions. Oh, it's so good. Okay, that's a little piece. And then everybody likes their own type of meat. You know, you might want to put some spicy tasso in here, or pick a sausage that's even spicier than a mild one that I like, just a regular smoked sausage. But you can use whatever kind of meat you like. You can probably even use, I know my cousin's mother-in-law uses chicken thighs in white beans, and it comes out actually really good. And that's not anything I was raised to do. So it's really just your preference of what you like. I wouldn't put seafood in it. I don't know. I'd have to try it to see if it's good. But for me right now, I wouldn't think seafood would go well in here. Hard to believe, because I think crab makes everything better. But okay, so that's the meat that's all around that fat right there. See how big chunks of meat? And this just needs a little bit of this fat removed, but some fat is good. It's only gonna help the flavor, right? Oops. Okay, and this is the last little piece right here. I don't think that looks like a lot of gizzard, like just parts that you wouldn't want, not necessarily meat. But this has a good amount of meat on it. There's that. It's really fatty, but as long as you get off all the hard pieces off, like I said, you're gonna do all right. Oh yeah, my dog is waiting. Waiting for the meat. This is too salty for him though. So, I mean, I would wait until I have it in the stew for a while and cooking for a while and getting nice and not so salty, you know, because the salt goes into the stew is what happens. So that looks like we got pretty much most of what we could get out of there. So this is all going back into the stew. And when my mom makes this, she actually just cuts the carrots up. You can do that if you like that. I like to mash everything up and get it all together, and then it's one big stew. And I think that makes it so much better. But it's totally up to you what you want to do. Okay, and at this point, I'm going to put all this back in. Sorry for the noise. I'm just gonna use a spoon to get the rest of this out. And like I said, you could do this whole recipe without meat and it comes out so good. I gave up meat in my early 20s, and let me tell you, when friends of mine came to visit and I made this for them with just fresh herbs and no meat, they couldn't believe it didn't have meat in it because it was so good. And then at this point, one of the last ingredients, the spinach. I rinse the spinach, and you just use regular spinach and you put it straight in there. And actually you also want to remember that spinach, when you add it, it's going to add a little bit of water content to the stew. So I've made this before where I add too much water in the beginning and then it winds up being more like soup. But if you keep the, keep it down to being a thick consistency like that is, then when you add the spinach, it'll be like the perfect amount of water to it. So you just stir it all in. That looks so good. And then the last ingredient we add while cooking. Ooh, there's a piece of carrot we missed. See, sometimes the carrot gets missed. This is when I would just grab the fork and just mash it on the spoon. And if you do it this way the whole way, your arm will get tired too. I think today with mashing it in the bowl was so much easier. This one just doesn't want to break up. Tell you, maybe somebody should have a big piece of carrot in a stew. But that's good, because it'll really break up the rest of the way after that. Okay? There we go. So the last ingredient before serving, because I do add one more ingredient while it's after it's plated, is a cup of red wine. This wine is, I was leaving, walking down the street the other day, and these women just handed it to me, and it's Josh. It's not a bad Cabernet, and I was like, oh, I'm gonna make a lentil stew. I'll use this in my lentil stew. I tasted it. It's okay. Oh no, it's not a whole cup. Somebody's been drinking my wine. it'll be fine. But it's usually a cup of red wine. It's a 1/4 cup of olive oil and a whole cup of red wine. That was more like 3/4 of a cup. So I don't know, have to get another bottle and add it to my leftovers or something. That's it. That's the whole stew. And then I'll just let that cook down a little bit. Okay, so this is the final moment. If you want to follow me over here, we can show how I'm serving the pasta. And then you get in there and you get whatever kind of meat you want, whatever kind of carrots you want. I don't try to take the bay leaf right now because I like it to stay in there and help season it a little bit more. Just see, I can try to find some of that delicious meat. Oops, like that. Oh, that looks good. All the meat's falling apart. There it is. There's some meat. You could even add a little bit more of the stew. Or you can do like the Italians do and have more pasta. Okay, and then you just add some Parmesan cheese on top, like that. Else we're missing is some more red wine to enjoy this with. So let me taste it. Parmesan and pasta, just a little bit of this carrot, and some of this meat. You can really taste how the fresh herbs, I can really taste it, not you. In general, you, if you make this, you can really taste how much the fresh herbs penetrate the stew like this. Oh my God, it's so delicious. And also I want to give a shout out to my friend Dave Jordan, wonderful musician here in New Orleans. If you haven't heard of him, look him up. He has a group called the NIA, the Neighborhood Improvement Association. He's a great dude. He has great tunes. And I either watch his live shows or I go to see him now. He's playing in some outdoor shows I like to go see and stuff like that. So if you get a chance, look him up. If you have any questions, let me know. I will post the recipe in the comments section. So thank you for joining us again. Thank you for believing in me, and thank you for being interested in my cooking. I hope that you use this and you were able to enjoy it as much. All right, I'll see y'all next time. Bye.